The brutal reality of life in San Quentin Prison. San Quentin is not just a prison. It is the oldest state penitentiary in California, a place where generations of violence, reform, executions, and human suffering have unfolded behind stone walls. For more than 170 years, this facility has housed some of the most notorious inmates in American history. But beyond the headlines, what is daily life inside San Quentin really like? Before we continue, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Beyond the Bars. Your support directly helps us continue researching and sharing deeply reported, factual stories from inside the world's most notorious prisons. Origins, architecture, and a prison frozen in time. The birth of San Quentin. San Quentin State Prison opened in 1852, making it the oldest operating prison in California. Its creation was driven by the chaos of the gold rush era, when California's exploding population overwhelmed local jails and law enforcement systems. The prison was built using inmate labor on a rocky point overlooking San Francisco Bay. Early structures were constructed from timber and stone, with minimal planning for long-term use. This matters, because many of the buildings still standing today were never designed to last more than a few decades. From the start, San Quentin was overcrowded, underfunded, and violent. Historical records describe unsanitary conditions, disease outbreaks, and routine physical punishment as accepted tools of control. A prison built for the 1800s, used in the 2000s. Unlike modern correctional facilities, San Quentin was never rebuilt from the ground up. Instead, it expanded in layers, new blocks added onto old foundations, often without modern safety standards. Many housing units lack air conditioning. Some areas have limited natural light. Plumbing and electrical systems in certain buildings date back decades, with repeated repairs rather than full replacements. State inspections and investigative reporting have consistently noted that the physical design of San Quentin makes it difficult to ensure safety, sanitation, and effective supervision. The prison's aging infrastructure has been publicly identified as a contributing factor to poor ventilation, increased disease transmission, limited emergency response capability. These concerns are not speculative, they appear repeatedly in official state reviews and court filings. Who is held at San Quentin? San Quentin primarily houses male inmates, including condemned prisoners on California's death row, inmates serving life sentences, medium and maximum security prisoners. For decades, San Quentin was the exclusive location of California's death row for men, making it one of the most scrutinized prison units in the United States. As of the early 2020s, executions have been halted in California by gubernatorial moratorium, but death row housing remains active. Inmates sentenced to death continue to live inside San Quentin under specialized conditions. The population has fluctuated significantly over time, but overcrowding has been a persistent issue, sometimes exceeding the prison's original design capacity by thousands. Daily life behind the walls. A typical day at San Quentin begins early. Inmates are subject to strict schedules governed by counts, meals, work assignments, and movement controls. Cells, especially in older units, are often small, with limited personal space. In some units, inmates are housed in double cells originally designed for one person, a practice that has been the subject of legal challenges and policy debates. Noise is constant. Metal doors, shouting across tiers, public address announcements, and foot traffic echo through the buildings day and night. While conditions vary by housing unit, investigative reporting and inmate testimony consistently describe limited privacy, high tension between inmate groups, persistent stress related to safety and uncertainty. These descriptions are corroborated by court documents and oversight reports, not anecdotal exaggeration. Violence and control. Violence at San Quentin has fluctuated over the decades, influenced by population density, gang dynamics, and staffing levels. Official records confirm assaults between inmates, attacks on correctional staff, Periodic lockdowns following violent incidents. Not all violence is publicly documented in detail. However, data released by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation confirms that San Quentin has historically experienced higher-than-average rates of serious incidents compared to newer facilities. Lockdowns, sometimes lasting weeks, are used to regain control after major incidents. During lockdowns, inmates may be confined to their cells for most of the day, with programs and visits suspended. The psychological weight. Beyond physical hardship, life at San Quentin carries a heavy psychological burden. Mental health services are present, but demand has often exceeded available resources. State audits and lawsuits have documented delays in treatment and staffing shortages, particularly during periods of overcrowding. For inmates on death row, the psychological toll is compounded by indefinite confinement, legal uncertainty, long-term isolation. Experts and courts have debated whether these conditions constitute cruel or unusual punishment. While reforms have been ordered at various times, the impact has been uneven and remains contested. Entering death row. For decades, death row has defined San Quentin's global reputation. California's condemned inmates have historically been housed in East Block, a massive structure completed in 1934. Unlike many modern death row facilities, East Block was built vertically, with narrow tiers stacked several stories high. Cells on death row are small, typically measuring around 4 by 8 feet, and enclosed by solid steel doors with narrow windows. Most condemned prisoners spend the majority of their day inside these cells. These conditions are not disputed. They are documented in court filings, state records, and decades of investigative journalism. Daily life on death row. Life on San Quentin's death row follows a rigid, repetitive structure. Inmates typically receive limited out-of-cell time, restricted movement between areas, highly controlled recreation periods. Historically, many death row prisoners were housed alone, though policies have changed over time to allow limited group interaction in some cases. Contact with family is restricted. Visits occur behind glass or under close supervision. Physical contact is often prohibited or severely limited. While conditions have evolved through legal pressure, death row remains one of the most isolated environments in the American prison system. The execution chamber. San Quentin has carried out more executions than any other prison in California history. Between 1938 and 1967, executions were conducted using the gas chamber, a method later ruled unconstitutional in California due to concerns over cruelty. From 1992 onward, lethal injection became the state's official execution method, with San Quentin designated as the execution site. The execution chamber is located within the prison complex, separate from general population housing. Its existence is confirmed through official records and media tours conducted during periods when executions were active. As of the mid-2000s, executions in California ceased due to legal challenges regarding lethal injection protocols. Executions halted. But death row remains. In 2019, California's governor issued a moratorium on executions, effectively halting the death penalty without eliminating death sentences. This decision did not empty death row. Men sentenced to death remain incarcerated at San Quentin, often with no clear timeline for resentencing or release. Legal scholars describe this status as indefinite punishment, where inmates live under a sentence that may never be carried out. This situation is not speculative. It has been openly acknowledged in court proceedings and public policy debates. Mental health and isolation. Death row inmates at San Quentin have been central to major lawsuits concerning mental health care. Federal courts have found that California's prison mental health system, including death row, has at times failed to meet constitutional standards. These findings resulted in court-appointed oversight and mandated reforms. Despite improvements, audits continue to document delays in psychiatric treatment, high rates of depression and anxiety diagnoses, Challenges in managing inmates with severe mental illness in high-security settings. The psychological strain of prolonged confinement under a death sentence remains a subject of ongoing legal and academic scrutiny. The cost of death row. Maintaining death row at San Quentin is expensive. Independent studies and state analyses consistently show that housing death row inmates costs significantly more than incarcerating inmates serving life without parole. Contributing factors include higher staffing ratios, increased security measures, extended legal proceedings. These costs have fueled political debate in California, contributing to ballot initiatives and legislative reform efforts over the past 2 decades. A symbol of America's death penalty debate. San Quentin has become more than a prison. It is a symbol. Activists, victims' families, legal scholars, and politicians have all pointed to San Quentin as evidence for opposing arguments about capital punishment. Some view it as a necessary institution for justice. Others see it as proof of systemic failure. What is undisputed is this. No other prison in California has shaped the death penalty conversation more deeply or more visibly. Rehabilitation, education, and the contradictions of San Quentin. A prison with 2 identities. San Quentin occupies a rare and uneasy position in the American prison system. On one hand, it is synonymous with executions, overcrowding, and aging infrastructure. On the other, it has become nationally known for rehabilitation programs that exist nowhere else at the same scale inside a maximum security prison. These 2 realities coexist within the same walls, often only a few hundred feet apart. This contrast is not rhetorical. It is documented by state officials, journalists, and researchers who have studied San Quentin over decades. Education behind the walls. San Quentin has long hosted educational programs that are rare in maximum security facilities. Among the most well-documented is college-level education, offered through partnerships with outside institutions and nonprofit organizations. Inmates who qualify can earn degrees while incarcerated, subject to strict eligibility requirements and security screening. Participation is limited. Not all inmates qualify, and space is constrained. But those who do participate often spend years completing coursework under constant supervision. Independent evaluations and academic studies have linked prison education programs, including those at San Quentin, to lower rates of recidivism. These findings are widely cited and supported by longitudinal research. San Quentin News, journalism from inside. San Quentin is home to San Quentin News, one of the only inmate-run newspapers in the United States. Founded in the 1940s, the publication operates under strict editorial oversight but is written and produced by incarcerated journalists. Its reporting covers prison life, rehabilitation, criminal justice reform, and re-entry challenges. The newspaper has been cited by lawmakers, journalists, and academic researchers. Its articles are frequently referenced in discussions about prison reform and transparency. This is not an informal project. San Quentin News operates with editorial standards, fact-checking procedures, and external review. Rehabilitation programs and self-improvement. Beyond education, San Quentin hosts a wide range of rehabilitation programs, including cognitive behavioral therapy groups, substance abuse treatment programs, victim offender dialogue initiatives, vocational and job readiness training. Many of these programs are operated by nonprofit organizations working in partnership with prison officials. Participation is voluntary and selective. Inmates must meet behavioral criteria and remain discipline-free to stay enrolled. Evaluations by independent researchers indicate that participants often show measurable improvements in behavior, emotional regulation, and post-release outcomes. Who gets access, and who doesn't? Not every inmate at San Quentin has access to these opportunities. Eligibility is influenced by sentence type, security classification, disciplinary history, housing assignment. Inmates on death row, for example, historically had far fewer program options, though limited reforms have expanded access in recent years. This unequal access has been criticized by advocates and acknowledged by prison administrators as a structural limitation rather than an intentional policy choice. Staffing, safety, and tension. Correctional officers at San Quentin operate under uniquely difficult conditions. The prison's age, layout, and population mix increase the risk of conflict and limit visibility in certain areas. Staffing shortages, documented in state audits, have at times intensified these challenges. Officers are responsible not only for security, but also for facilitating programs, escorting inmates, and responding to medical and mental health emergencies. These pressures contribute to burnout and high turnover, issues acknowledged in official reports and union statements. COVID-19 and a system under strain. San Quentin became a focal point of national attention in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. A transfer of inmates from another facility preceded a massive outbreak inside the prison. Thousands were infected, and multiple inmate deaths were officially attributed to the virus. Independent investigations and court rulings later found that planning failures and overcrowding contributed to the outbreak's severity. The incident prompted emergency population reductions, leadership changes, and renewed scrutiny of California's prison management practices. Reform pressure and the future of San Quentin. In recent years, state officials have openly questioned whether San Quentin can continue operating in its current form. Proposals have included partial closure or population reduction, conversion into a rehabilitation-focused facility, eventual replacement with modern housing. No final outcome has been publicly confirmed. Plans remain under review, subject to funding, political approval, and legal constraints. What is clear is that San Quentin's future is uncertain, shaped by its past, but no longer immune to change. Notorious inmates, landmark cases, and the legacy of San Quentin. A prison that held America's most infamous. Over its long history, San Quentin has housed some of the most notorious criminals in American history. These inmates were not famous because of the prison itself, but the prison became famous because it held them. Serial killers, organized crime figures, and individuals convicted in nationally publicized cases all passed through San Quentin's gates. Many arrived under intense media scrutiny. Some spent decades inside before dying in custody or being transferred. It is important to note. San Quentin did not create these crimes. It became the final destination for men already convicted by courts across California. Landmark court cases and national attention. San Quentin has played a central role in multiple landmark legal battles that reshaped California's prison system. Court cases involving overcrowding, medical neglect, mental health care, and execution methods frequently referenced conditions inside San Quentin as evidence. Federal judges cited the prison in rulings that forced California to reduce inmate populations, overhaul healthcare delivery, revise death penalty procedures. These cases did not emerge from theory. They were built on documented conditions inside facilities like San Quentin, supported by inspections, expert testimony, and official data. Victims, families, and complicated justice. Any discussion of San Quentin must include the victims of violent crime. Families of victims have long followed cases tied to San Quentin, especially those involving death row and parole hearings. For some, the prison represents accountability. For others, decades-long delays and legal uncertainty have prolonged trauma rather than resolved it. There is no single narrative shared by victims' families. Their perspectives vary widely and are shaped by individual experiences, court outcomes, and personal beliefs. This complexity is well documented in interviews, public statements, and victim advocacy research. Public perception versus daily reality. To the public, San Quentin often exists as an idea, a symbol of ultimate punishment. Inside, it is a place of routines, boredom, fear, effort, and survival. For most incarcerated men, daily life is not defined by headline cases, but by waiting for counts, navigating prison politics, attending or being excluded from programs, managing long sentences with uncertain endings. This gap between perception and reality is one of the defining features of San Quentin's legacy. Can San Quentin be reformed? Experts remain divided on whether San Quentin can be meaningfully reformed. Some argue the prison's age and layout make it fundamentally incompatible with modern correctional standards. Others believe its rehabilitation programs demonstrate what is possible even in deeply flawed institutions. State officials have acknowledged both views. No final decision has been announced regarding permanent closure or replacement. What is documented is this: San Quentin's future will require major investment, population changes, or a complete reimagining of its role. The final verdict: a prison that mirrors America. San Quentin is not just a prison. It is a mirror. It reflects America's shifting views on punishment, rehabilitation, race, violence, mercy, and justice. For more than a century and a half, it has held the condemned, the forgotten, and the hopeful, all at once. Its walls have witnessed executions and graduations, despair and reform, failure and effort. And whether San Quentin survives or fades into history, its impact on the American justice system is permanent. The brutal reality of life in San Quentin is not defined by a single story. It is defined by contradiction. By suffering alongside opportunity. By punishment alongside reform. By a past that refuses to disappear and a future still undecided. What happens inside its walls continues to shape debates far beyond them. If you found this documentary valuable, consider subscribing to Beyond the Bars. We are committed to telling fully factual, deeply researched stories from inside the world's most hidden institutions. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay curious, and stay informed.